Diplomatic confusion has erupted between Washington and Budapest following what initially appeared to be a productive meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, revealing significant fractures in transatlantic coordination on Russia sanctions policy. The White House announced a one-year sanctions waiver permitting Hungary to continue importing Russian oil and gas, citing Budapest's energy security concerns and strategic importance as a NATO ally. However, within hours of the White House statement, Hungarian officials declared the exemption permanent, creating an immediate contradiction that forced the U.S. administration to issue a clarifying statement insisting the waiver remain strictly time-bound. This diplomatic tangle has raised serious questions about the coherence of Trump's sanctions strategy and the administration's commitment to maintaining economic pressure on Moscow. Critics within the U.S. foreign policy establishment warned that any carved-out for Russian energy export undermines the broader sanctions architecture designed to isolate Russia economically and reduce its capacity to fund military operations in Ukraine. The incident has also exposed tensions within NATO regarding energy dependence, as Hungary's reliance on Russian hydrocarbons has long been a point of contention with alliance partners. European diplomats expressed concerns that the mixed messaging could encourage other nations to seek similar exemptions, potentially fracturing the unified Western Front against Russian aggression. The situation remains fluid as Treasury Department officials work to clarify the waiver's precise terms, while attempting to reassure European allies about America's continued commitment to sanctions enforcement. This episode highlights the complex challenges of maintaining multilateral sanctions regime when national interests and energy security concerns collide with broader geopolitical objectives, particularly as winter approaches and energy demands increase across Europe. Romania and Bulgaria are urgently implementing emergency measures to protect their energy security as the November 21st deadline for new U.S. sanctions on Russian oil giants Lukoil and Rosneft approaches, revealing Europe's persistent vulnerability to energy disruption despite years of efforts to reduce dependence on Russian resources. Bulgarian authorities have already passed emergency legislation granting the government temporary control over the strategically vital Burgas refinery, which processes Russian crude and supplies fuel to much of southeastern Europe. Romanian officials are simultaneously developing contingency plans for Lukoil's Petrotel refinery in Ploiești, weighing options ranging from state intervention to emergency licensing arrangements that would allow continued operations under strict oversight. The situation deteriorated significantly after Swiss trading giant Lavrov unexpectedly withdrew its bid to acquire Lukoil's European assets following explicit warning from the U.S. Treasury Department about potential secondary sanctions exposure. Energy analysts warned that sudden shutdown of these Russian-owned facilities could trigger severe fuel shortage across the Balkans, particularly affecting landlocked countries like Serbia and North Macedonia that rely heavily on refined products from these refineries. The crisis has exposed the lingering reality of Europe's energy infrastructure, much of which was designed during the Soviet era and remained technically optimized for Russian crude oil specification. Both Bucharest and Sofia faced difficult choice between maintaining energy stability for their populations and complying with Western sanction policy, with neither options offering a clean resolution. Local officials emphasized that immediate shutdowns would cause economic chaos, including transportation paralysis, industrial production halt, and potential civil unrest, while maintaining operations risk diplomatic isolation and financial penalties from key international partners. This predicament underscores the incomplete nature of Europe's energy transition and the practical challenge of rapidly decoupling from Russian energy systems that have operated for decades, even as political rhetoric emphasizes energy independence, and security diversification. A comprehensive intelligence assessment has uncovered evidence of a sophisticated covert oil for weapons exchange between China and Iran, signaling the emergence of a strengthening strategic axis among Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran as Western sanctions pressure intensifies. According to detailed analysis by Dryad Global, Iran has established a complex barter system that trades crude oil exports for advanced Chinese military hardware, including sophisticated HQ-9B air defense systems, precision missile guidance technology, and critical drone component that enhance Tehran's asymmetric warfare capabilities. The operation reportedly employs a shadow fleet exceeding 470 tankers operating under false flag and managed through intricate networks of front company designed to circumvent international sanctions and financial monitoring systems. This clandestine trade has expanded significantly since Western restriction tightened following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, with both nations seeking alternative supply chains and economic partnerships outside traditional Western-dominated frameworks. Simultaneously, Russia has dramatically increased its own military cooperation with Iran, delivering advanced S-400 air defense system and preparing to transfer nearly 50 Russian-built Su-35 fighter jets equipped with deadly R-37M long-range air-to-air missiles. Military analysts note that these missiles, capable of striking target over 300 kilometers away at speed approaching Mach 6, represent a quantum leap in Iran's aerial combat capabilities and could fundamentally alter regional military balance. Leaked Russian government documents reviewed by defense specialists indicate that the R-37M deployment on Iran's Su-35 fleet could serve as a strategic deterrent against potential Israeli or American airstrike, complicating attack planning and potentially forcing adversary to reconsider operational parameters. This weapons transfer responds directly to perceived vulnerabilities exposed during Israeli strike against Iranian facilities in June, which demonstrate gaps in Tehran's air defense coverage and rapid reaction capabilities. The growing military interdependence among these three nations creates a complex challenge for Western policymakers, as traditional sanctions and diplomatic pressure appear increasingly ineffective against coordinated resistance from major powers with complementary strategic interests. Intelligence agencies report that the Russia-China-Iran triangle is developing shared technologies and operational doctrines that could eventually challenge Western military dominance in multiple theaters, particularly in areas involving drone warfare, electronic warfare, and precision strike capabilities. The convergence of these military transfers and economic partnership has created a new strategic reality in global security architecture with significant implications for regional stability and international arms control framework. Western intelligence agencies have documented increased technical cooperation between Russian, Chinese, and Iranian defense industry, including joint research initiatives and technology sharing agreements that accelerate weapon development cycles while reducing dependence on Western components and expertise. This trilateral cooperation extends beyond conventional weapons to include cyber capabilities and satellite technology and artificial intelligence applications for military use, creating what defense analysts describe as a parallel security architecture operating outside traditional Western-led institutions. The situation has prompted urgent reassessment within NATO and allied defense establishment about force posture, readiness requirements, and strategic planning assumptions that have guided Western military thinking since the Cold War's conclusion. U.S. defense officials have privately acknowledged that the rapid enhancement of Iranian air defense capabilities through Russian and Chinese systems has fundamentally altered threat assessment for potential military operations in the Middle East, requiring significant adjustment to operational planning and resource allocation. Meanwhile, European energy security concerns have intensified as the November 21st sanctions deadline approaches. with emergency coordination meeting taking place between Brussels, Washington, and affected member states to develop contingency plans for potential fuel shortage. The Hungarian sanctions waiver controversy has complicated these efforts, as other nations seek similar accommodations for their energy infrastructure while maintaining alliance cohesion against Russian aggression. Diplomatic channels remain active but strained, with multiple rounds of negotiations underway to find acceptable compromise that balance immediate energy security needs with long-term strategic objectives regarding Russian economic isolation. The situation in Ukraine continues to influence these calculations, as Western leaders weigh the impact of sanctions enforcement on both the battlefield dynamics and the broader geopolitical competition with the emerging Moscow-Beijing-Tehran axis. Military analysts note that the convergence of advanced weapon systems among America's strategic competitors creates new vulnerabilities for Western forces and require accelerated development of countermeasure and operational adaptation. This evolving security landscape demands coordinated response across diplomatic, economic, and military domains, challenging traditional alliance structure and potentially reshaping global power dynamics for decades to come. The coming weeks will prove critical as sanctions deadline approach. Weapon deliveries proceed and diplomatic efforts intensify to manage these intersecting crises that threaten both regional stability and the broader international order that has prevailed since the end of the Cold War. If you have made it this far, congratulations, you have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question though. With the exposure of a covert oil for weapons pact between China and Iran, alongside Russia's delivery of advanced Su-35 fighter jets and R-37M missiles to Tehran, do you believe this emerging Russia-China-Iran axis fundamentally shifts the balance of global power, especially in the Middle East? And what are the long-term implications for Western alliance and international security? And why? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, hit the notification bell, and most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.